If you don't have time to catch up on all 30 episodes of the Adelian Void before watching the Moon Festival campaign, or you don't have time to watch all 70 episodes before we get going with Campaign 3, well, let's get you caught up. But first, a foreword. Our Fate Solar Shadow campaign is based on concepts outlined by the Fate Stay Night universe, specifically a modern-day world where mages live in a massive hidden society normal humans aren't aware of. Our campaign follows its rules generally, making some allowances for the purposes of having a functional 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign. There are allowances for traditional D&d races to exist within the world, mostly kept secret or secluded. Our game also begins in the year 1915, and is an alternate universe from the source material, where no Holy Grail Wars had ever happened, the story is not centered on Fuyuki, and characters from the canon Fate franchise, including their interpretations of historic figures and heroic spirits, do not exist. Only overarching concepts and the foundation of the mythology remain. Our story starts in Ireland, following a group of characters hired by an esteemed clockwork mage named Orla Fannin. This party consists of Lorenzo, an orphan half-orc warlock trying to find information about his original family, Martin Shea, a gun-wielding sorcerer who has joined and abandoned the army, Ian and Isla McCracken, 16-year-old alchemists whose mother was killed and father went missing, Gael, a disillusioned Goliath paladin who was an executor for the Holy Church but left them, Stonewalker, a half-Firbolg druid searching for her former master, Bruthuv, and Eric Stein, a church assassin with a cursed arm, looking for an explanation about it. The group arrives at Orla's mansion, where a series of clockwork soldiers and a puzzle door test them. They overcome these tribulations and meet with Orla and her protective butler, Gearfree Chestnut. She tells them that she can help all of them, but she needs them to head to the hidden island nation of Adelia to retrieve an item called the Shard of Iridescent Light. She tells them that she previously hired a mage named Myloran and Stonewalker's master Bruthuv to help her, but they went missing on the island. The group agrees, and Gearfree is sent with them to guide them and make sure they make it back. The island nation of Adelia is an artificial island, created by old mages trying to create a haven for magic, where the progression of modern technology wouldn't affect their magecraft. It resembles an ancient society that more closely appears as if it's from the Age of the Gods. It's also secluded from the outside world, so to reach it, the players must travel through an ancient gate in an island checkpoint. They take a boat there and fight through the inhabitants of this ancient checkpoint, eventually arriving at a vortex of magic connected to the gate. Emerging from it, Stonewalker's old master Bruthuv appears, wearing organic, dark armor, clearly altered and stoic. He wields powers that can remove things from reality, including from the memories of others who knew them. He tries to prevent them from entering, and kills Gael while they fight, removing him from history. In the commotion, the bridge they're on is broken, and they all fall into the vortex where they're torn apart. Rather than die, a demon lord called Alquam saves them, branding them each with a mark and reviving a copy of Gael as a revenant. It tells them to release it from its bindings in Adelia, and it will help them with their goal. The group falls unconscious, and they awaken in Adelia without Gearfree, where they've been imprisoned as outsiders. A priest named Duncan Ravison comes to meet with them. He explains that he is the last remaining servant of Alquam, who was worshipped as one of 2 patron gods of the island. Duncan's order was wiped out, but he was their high priest. He goes on to tell them that the island remains alive because of the Shard of Iridescent Light, but that outsiders had reached it and tried to seize control of it. They accidentally corrupted it and opened a tear in reality leading to the Void, a space between alternate worlds where everything that never existed and all things lost to time end up. After it opened, Bruthuv was made an avatar of the Void, and started waging war on the rest of the island. The rival High Priest of Kiren, Alquam's rival deity, also became an avatar of the Void, and used that influence to enslave their own god, and wipe out the Order of Alquam. Duncan says Alquam sent him to gain their help, and their markings were taken from him. Somewhat dejected, he shows them the rotting landscape of the island caused by the Void's influence. Lorenzo also discovers that Kiren's high priest is his father, who had many children as part of a political play, before becoming high priest, but later tried to have them killed. Lorenzo was sent from the island to save his life. The group is left in prison briefly because the populace doesn't trust them, while a woman named Robin comes to speak with them in secret. She asks for their help. and that they hunt down and bring back a serial killer who killed a village of people. She also claims to know about Eric's arm. They agree, and Robin arranges their escape through a tunnel beneath the prison. They make their way to the other village and find the serial killer, who they talk down from fighting. They bring him back with them to Robin, who stabs him with an invisible sword and moves her mind into his body. Robin tells them that he is a body-jumping pseudo-lich that was once the Japanese swordsman Sasaki Kojiro, revived by a necromancer as an undead minion, but who rebelled and found a way to sustain his life by jumping bodies. His current body was running out of time, so he needed a new one. He tells them that he came to the island for his own business, but now wishes to get off, as the void is one of the few things that could endanger him. He carries an instrument case with him that he won't allow others to touch. Though begrudgingly, the party trusts him and takes the soulless body of Robin with them. It proves beneficial, as due to misusing some of Alquam's power, Martin's body and soul are separated, so he transfers to Robin's body. They arrive back in town as the forces of the void attempt to attack them, and in helping save them, they win over the locals. During the fight, Duncan Ravison is killed, protecting the group. But Kojiro undoes his death by jumping between alternate timelines, revealing he has influence over the third true magic, the operation of parallel worlds. Actually, I'm going to fact check that right now. Second. Revealing he has influence over the second true magic, the operation of parallel worlds. After this battle, Duncan says that they should head for the capital, where his ally Tobias is holding off the Void soldiers. The group also recognizes that Gearfree should be on the island somewhere and that they should find him. They have to travel through a fortress city called Stonewell, ruled by a queen named Thelka, but upon arriving and seeking her audience, Duncan finds out that Thelka has turned to the Void and attacks Duncan. While there, Sasaki lures Ian and Isla away from the group to an old hidden chamber in the mountain, where they fight a shield guardian protecting ancient broken katanas. Kojiro explains that old artifacts often find their way to Adelia. When they take the weapons, they have a vision of a samurai and a woman falling in love and meeting their ends, and some magic burns away their marks of Alquam to replace them with new markings that they don't know the function of. The group is split up, and Gael is killed again, but will return later, being a revenant. The city guard tries to ignite an inn where Eric, Ian, Isla, and Lorenzo are. They find an underground sewer passage, but Lorenzo and Eric stay behind to fight the guards, invoking Alquam's blessings. They stave them off, but end up failing. There are inconsistent shenanigans with crossbows involved. Eric is captured, and Lorenzo gives his life killing the city guards. The rest of the group meets up at a cathedral, built into the mountainside to confront Thelka, without Eric and Martin present. They defeat Thelka's greatest knights with the help of Gearfree, who finds them, having been searching the whole time. Confronting Thelka, she explains that the void cannot be stopped, and so decides to side with it, having lost faith in Alquam. She dangles Martin and Eric off the cliff by animated chains and fights the party with her void abilities, ultimately holding their lives hostage. Duncan asks Martin and Eric if they are willing to sacrifice everything for Adelia, and they say they are, leading to a bombardment of arrows from the capital city, despite it being miles away. These arrows strike like missiles and cause Martin and Eric to fall. They meet their ends here, though their bodies disappear. Thelka is defeated. Duncan tells them the arrows were from Tobias, a hero guarding the capital city. The group continues forward. During their trip to the capital city, they have a series of campfire conversations. They discover that Sasaki was in the body of Mai Laran when they arrived, and Robin had been an assassin that was tracking him down. Broodhoof had tried to harness the power of the shard, but the attempt to do so had opened the void, and Mai Laran was seized by it. To escape, Sasaki jumped to Robin's body and fled. Gearfree also reveals himself to be an ancient automaton that protected Orla's family for hundreds of years. Noticing the markings on both Ian and Isla, Duncan and Gearfree both allude to them being related to a conflict off-island, which Duncan admits he'll be traveling to after the void is sealed. Gearfree also mentions that Orla's family has a complication that causes them to die young. Once enslaved by a greater mage, the pauldron on her shoulder is a living elemental that binds to their nervous system. It allows their family to use powerful magic, but it also causes them to die in their late 20s, as a means to keep their family from having become too powerful under their previous master's rule. It cannot be removed, or her nervous system would entirely shut down. Orla's ultimate objective is removing it and gaining a normal life. After arriving in the city, they meet Tobias and his 9 allies, revealed to be spirits summoned by Duncan to defend the city. Sasaki, Tobias, Duncan, and Gearfree all make the group aware of some things that they could do to help with the ongoing fight. Sasaki wants the cabin that he and Broodhoof stayed in explored for information, but cannot go himself due to a barrier. Duncan can help them free Alquam from an ancient statue that they're sealed in using an ancient scythe connected to Alquam's soul. Gearfree wants to absorb an old mana stone into his body, which he heard exists in a mine, and Tobias wants a pool of ether to be collected to revitalize him and his compatriots. The group frees Alquam from the old statue with Duncan's help, and Gael takes on an oath to them. They complete Gearfree's mission and increase his combat output. He reveals that his body contains various mana cores made from magic circuits of the Fanon family's past heads. The group collects the mana from the demon-infested reservoir for Tobias, who spends the night drinking with the group and reveals that they're heroic spirits, summoned as servants, and that Tobias is the legendary ninja Sarutobi Sasuke, summoned as an archer servant, and his compatriots are his noble phantasm, the Sanada 10 Braves. They let slip that Duncan will be taking part in a ritual called the Holy Grail War in a few years, and wants to wish for Adelia's complete restoration. In the meantime, they are acting as heroes do, and protecting Adelia from the Void. When they complete Sasaki's errand, they find Broodhoof's notes about the Shard of Iridescent Light, finding out that it's an ancient artifact that channels energy from the corpse of an ancient sea beast, Kuduid, to keep the island alive. It sapped energy from the Void to do so, and Kuduid had the power to merge alternate timelines to create an objective timeline with no possible parallels. He intended to harness its power for himself, but it went sideways. As they leave, Broodhoof finds them, and the group battles him, ending in Broodhoof's defeat at their hands. Stonewalker bids farewell to his hollowed-out former master and takes his Staff of the Woodlands. Sasaki alludes to having business left in the city, and says that they should stay out of his way when the time comes. In return, he promises to help them in the future. One day before a known invasion by the Church of Kirin, the group spends the night drinking with the Braves. Knowing this day will likely be the end of the war here, they get everything out of their systems and speak frankly to each other. Gael and Stonewalker spend the night together, as do Isla and Tobias. The former as part of a building romance, the latter for fun. The next day, the group tries to go through a portal they think will take them to Kirin's invading force, but it turns out to have been an ambush meant for Tobias. They fight their way out of it, and are confronted by Kirin, controlled by Lorenzo's father. After a brief battle, Kirin retreats to the city to attack Duncan and Archer. In the meantime, Sasaki attacks Archer suddenly. Holding him off, Sasaki claims that most heroic spirits aren't capable of overcoming the hundreds of years of combat experience that Sasaki has accumulated. With his braves defending the city, Archer is overwhelmed, and Sasaki strikes him through the chest with his invisible sword. He damages his spirit core and steals part of it, but then is confronted by Gearfree. Activating his generation engine one core at a time, Gearfree claims that Kojiro's hundreds of years of combat experience cannot stand up to his almost 1,000 years of service and multitudes of mages worth of circuits within his own body. Though he cannot kill him, he sends Sasaki hurtling from the city walls and damages him enough to put him out of commission. Elsewhere, the group fights Kirin, Ian utilizing a special mutagen he acquired from an apothecary named Briar who had been helping them. Gael manifests Alquam as a mount to battle Kirin, and they manage to defeat him. Alquam summoning a revenant of Lorenzo to strike the final blow against his father. With this, the Order of Kirin begins scattering, leaving only the Void Reach Cathedral, where the Void's opening is located. The group hijacks the teleportation system that connected to the gate they once would have tried to use, which takes them into the cathedral. They fight through its tribulations. Though it is filled with constructs with infinite regenerative abilities, cover from the Sonata Braves allows them to progress. They find the chamber where Myloron's body has been made host to the Void's will, and specters of Thelka, Lorenzo's father, and Broodhoof are summoned to fight them. They battle, leading to the area eventually collapsing and them falling into a massive chamber underground. The waters below the animated corpse of Kuduid rises as the final host to the Void. The group battles the massive beast and comes out victorious. As Kuduid attempts to restore itself, they retrieve the Shard of Iridescent Light. His mission complete, Gael's form as a revenant begins to fade away. Gearfree begins a teleportation ritual to escape back to Ireland before Kuruid can reform, as they say goodbye to Gael, who tells the twins how proud he is of them. Duncan arrives on the scene in time to see the group vanish with the shard in hand, leaving Adelia to slowly disappear. As they vanish, they see revenants of Eric, Martin in his original body, and Lorenzo, bidding them farewell. Returning to Orla and Limerick, Stonewalker decides to leave. Feeling something is off, she asks Gearfree what will happen with the twins. He says he'll ensure they stay safe and alludes to his own time running out. Stonewalker leaves and the twins return to Orla. They return the shard to her, and she invites them to stay there while she prepares to help them find their father. That night, Gearfree finds them and wakes the twins, giving them a letter that was delivered to them here while they were in Adelia, which invites them to join the Holy Grail War as joint masters. He also gives them a memory cog, which contains information regarding servant summoning and other magics. He helps them to flee from Orla's underground facility, but Orla finishes a summoning ritual, revealing she is a master, and that the shard was to be a catalyst to summon her saber servant. She mentions that when the letter was delivered to her and she became aware that the twins were withholding their positions as masters from her, she realized they may be a threat. Her saber servant, a handsome, cocky swordsman with a greatsword, is commanded to kill them. Gearfree intercepts it and is destroyed. Orla mentions that dismantling Gearfree was necessary, regardless, as Gearfree was built originally to keep her family in line, and his programming forced him to perpetuate the cycle of early death and passing on of their pauldron, the Titan's Hand. She had no doubt he cared for them, but couldn't stop himself from preventing her from rebelling. Saber continued to attack, but the twins' attacks are reflected from him to the environment around him. As Saber is about to kill them, a barbarian breaks into the building and distracts him. The twins flee, and Sasaki appears, noting that he has summoned his own servant, Berserker, using a catalyst he found in Adelia that he had been keeping within the case that he had. He threatens to interfere with Orla pursuing the twins right now. She concedes and allows them to leave. Going with Sasaki, he tells them that there are two Holy Grail Wars happening. Theirs is the Moon Festival Holy Grail War, and his is the Sun Song Grail War. Mylaran was originally invited to the war, but Sasaki had taken his body and acquired knowledge of it, and now held Mylaran's place in the Sun Song War. He gives them a cabin to stay in for the 5 years until the war begins, and supplements Gearfree's knowledge of summoning rituals to help them. Sasaki relates that he thinks it will be fun to see what they do from here, and then takes his leave. The twins read the letter inviting them to the Grail War, delivered by its practitioner, Maester Lee, and try to unlock the information within the memory cog. Over the years, they worked to improve their craft. They are eventually tracked down and trapped by a bard from New York, Diane Winters, who claims she's looking for their father. She says she was part of a gang of thieves led by a man named Jack Blackwood, but that their father Quantavius showed up with a woman who stole Jack's heart from her, and she was kicked out. She wants to find him to get revenge. Ian doesn't believe his father is at fault, but Isla secretly thinks that he killed their mother. The two invite her to join them in the war, after she tells them that Jack and Quantavius went to Yornico, where they know the war will take place. Near the end of their 5-year stay in the cabin, they are attacked as well by an assassin named David Dern, who draws them into the forest. He is joined by a servant of his own, Lancer, and says he's part of a group called Kestrel that wants to deal with Alquam, and a group in the war called the Dial Clan. Agreeing that their goals align, Lancer and David agree to work with them for the war. Finally, as the war approaches, the twins perform their summoning ritual. Using the swords Sasaki had helped them find as catalysts, they managed to become joint masters of their new servant. They invoke the swordsman that they had seen in their visions, the assassin servant Tanaka Shinbei, who pledges his loyalty to his new masters. Together, this group heads toward the Valley District of Yornico in Switzerland to meet with Maester Lee and begin their part in the Moon Festival Holy Grail War. From the waters below, the animated corpse of Kuruid rises as the final host to the void. I'm recording.
Shit. I'm sorry.
That's cool. What's up?
I didn't know you were recording.
That's alright.
I'm
I did not like I have a light on or anything, so there's no way you would have known.
I didn't.
What do you want? What are you doing?
I wanted my hoodie in a garbage bag.
Oh, and a garbage bag?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What time am I at? How long has this been? Like 18 minutes. Okay, I don't think this will be more than like 26 minutes. For 30 episodes, that's pretty good.
That ain't bad. Yeah.
Now get out of here.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted. I didn't know.
That's okay. Goodbye. Mwah. You're not in trouble.
Oh, I just feel bad. I'm sorry.
This is why I need to get like a light so that when we're recording, you can be like, brr. Mwah. Okay. Back into narration voice.